I yield to my good friend.
Thank you so much, Chairman Smith, and thank you for holding this joint subcommittee hearing on this important topic. And in fact, this is the third hearing that Chairman Smith and I have held on the issue of human rights in Iran, and I am appreciative of your continued dedicated leadership on this issue. I want to first start with some good news. We confirmed yesterday that Rosita Vashigi was finally released last month after a 5-year sentence in prison in Iran. Rosita is a member of the persecuted Baha'i community that you've heard from my colleagues, the Iran's largest non-Muslim religious minority, and I adopted her as a prisoner of conscience last year as part of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission Defending Freedoms Project. And while I am relieved, all of us are, that Rosita has been released and will be able to get the health care that she needs after years of brutal mistreatment and solitary confinement, we know that her ordeal is not over. She has not been given any paperwork. Authorities have not told her whether she really might continue to serve a second 5-year term or even an arbitrary 2-year term. She fears that she could be thrown back in prison at any time. So we continue to pray for Rosita and for so many others as well. Mr. Chairman, as you know, the Iranian regime uses tactics like those that they used against Rosita every day to instill fear in the people of Iran. Iran's human rights practices are among the worst in the world, but in its desperation to secure a nuclear deal, the Obama administration has completely ignored the issue of human rights in Iran, as well as many other concerns that we have with the Iranian regime. And this serves as another example of the policy of the White House to look the other way on human rights violations as part of any negotiation, and that was evident in Cuba. The administration is hosting regime officials tomorrow after the Castro state security folks have arrested over 300 civil society activists in the last 3 weeks. In the last 3 weeks, and delegations have come and gone, and folks say they're all in favor of human rights, but apparently not while there. Among them was Berta Soler, who testified before your subcommittee, Mr. Chairman, 3 weeks ago. In these secret talks with Cuba, the administration showed its willingness to trade away the store for little concessions in return. So the question becomes, what will the administration trade next with the Iran nuclear deal? What will the administration give up in return for those American citizens who are being held in Tehran? The parallels between how the White House is negotiating in secret with Cuba and Iran at the same time, well, the parallels are striking. What the administration has never understood, or really has chosen to ignore, is that Congress passed strong sanctions laws, not just to stop Iran's nuclear program, but also its ballistic missile program, its weapons program, its worldwide support for terror, its destabilization of the region, its abysmal human rights record. And as the author of many Iran-related sanctions legislation, I can tell you that from the very beginning, the administration fought Congress tooth and nail to stop any sanctions at all. And so it is of no surprise to no one, it is no surprise that the human rights issue is not even a part of the discussion when we talk about the nuclear deal. And now it appears increasingly likely that the administration will give away what little leverage we have and leave the Ayatollahs free to continue to oppress the people of Iran, to continue jailing, torturing, executing dissidents, prisoners of conscience, religious minorities, ethnic minorities. It is truly shameful to hear our own State Department talk about the importance of global human rights, talk about it, when it does absolutely nothing and, in fact, is indirectly legitimizing the continued repression of the people of Iran. The Obama administration, after failing to support the Iranian people's right of self-determination during the 2009 Green Movement, rushed to brand Rouhani as a moderate, saying that human rights under this Ayatollah lackey would somehow improve. But what we've seen, Mr. Chairman, is just the opposite. Human rights under Rouhani have actually gotten worse. There have been more crackdowns on free speech, more arrests, more jailings of journalists, more jailings of political prisoners, more persecution of women, LGBT community, religious minorities, ethnic minorities, more executions. According to the latest report of Human Rights Watch, the real number of executions in Iran last year is thought to be over 600, including 8 who were under the age of 18. We still cannot confirm the execution last week of Saman Nassim, a 22-year-old ethnic Kurd who was 17 when he was arrested. Bloggers and social media users have also suffered under Rouhani, with security forces cracking down sharply on any dissent, especially those considered to be leading members of the opposition. Members of the Baha'i community, like Rosita, are especially targeted, with 100 Baha'is currently in prison. Baha'i cemeteries are systematically destroyed, including last year's bulldozing of over 1,000 graves in one city in order to build a cultural and sports complex. And May 14th is the 7-year anniversary of the imprisonment of the Baha'i Seven, the former leadership group who have been serving 20-year sentences for advocating on behalf of their religious beliefs. The regime hopes that we will move on. We will forget the people of Iran as the administration in the U.S. continues to negotiate solely on the nuclear program, and there are at least 4 unjustly jailed Americans in Iranian prisons, and we've mentioned them here. Saeed Abedini, a Christian pastor who has been in jail since 2012, has been tortured and beaten by prison guards and inmates. Marine veteran Amir Hekmati, who has been held since 2011. His health is rapidly deteriorating. He is also beaten and tortured. Jason Razehan, the Washington Post bureau chief, arrested last year, still not been charged, but he's in solitary confinement and his health is declining. And of course, the constituent of my good friend Ted Deutsch, Bob Levinson, a South Florida resident who's been held captive by the Iranian regime since March 9th, 2007, making him the longest held hostage in U.S. history. These 4 U.S. citizens are just a few of the millions who continue to suffer under the Iranian regime, and tragically, that suffering is not part of the administration's calculus. Human rights are an essential factor in long-term stability, should be a key objective in our foreign policy strategy, not a simple resolution to pass, but something to live up to every day, both for those suffering under tyranny and for our own national security. Mr. Chairman, we must not allow the human rights conditions in Iran to be ignored continually by this administration. Thank you, sir.